Hey, Margie here. Many of us know that magnesium is absolutely essential for our bones and overall health, but you may not know that there are other ways to get magnesium besides taking a pill. And today we're going to talk about transdermal magnesium. That's magnesium that's absorbed through the skin. And our very special guest is Kristen Bowen. And Kristen is the founder and owner of Living the Good Life Naturally. And it took a complete health crash to lead Kristen to create this company in 2002. Through research and looking for outside the box solutions, she discovered that to regain her health, she needed to build a strong foundation. And that foundation included food as medicine and the number one building block for optimal health, magnesium. But she discovered that oral magnesium was not effective for her and began using liquid magnesium as a foot soak, finding that the body could utilize it more effectively. One thing led to another, and she created her company. Kristen also hosted a Rocky Mountain regional radio show for 7 years, where she answered questions on natural health and has been the keynote speaker at many natural health conferences. In this episode, you'll learn the benefits of transdermal magnesium. And Kristen shares with us the science behind the absorption of magnesium in our body and why magnesium soaks are so helpful and exactly how to do the soaks. There is so much to learn in this episode, so stay tuned. Welcome, Kristen. I am absolutely thrilled to have you. Today, we're talking about a topic that is so near and dear to my heart, and you've done so much work and have so much to contribute to this. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I am more excited after meeting you and realizing your natural gift is what I help people get to. I'm super excited to be on this podcast today.
Yay, we're going to have so much fun. So before we get started, because magnesium is just something that every person I work with is on, and this is just something that can benefit. Sometimes some of the podcasts can benefit certain people, but this is something I believe that benefits everybody. But before we get started, you have such an amazing story that I'd like you to share that, because I think when people hear what you've gone through and how you came to be someone that deals with and has a whole company with magnesium, that I think people will have a better understanding once they hear your story. So why don't you start telling us?
Okay, so quick version is I have had numerous autoimmune issues throughout my life. And after it was my fourth baby, sixth child was born, I started having some bladder issues. Called my sisters and said, what is happening? Every time I walk, I have bladder leakage. And they're like, oh, you have a prolapsed bladder. You need to go back into your OBGYN and get it taken care of. They were right, I did. On the table, my heart stopped. It was a simple surgery. My heart stopped. It happened several times on the table. After the surgery, 3.5-year period, I got down to a feeding tube, a colostomy bag, a catheter, a wheelchair, having seizures every day with a little headrest that held my head up. And I'll never forget the moment it really changed for me. My family had taken me to church. That was my big outing for the week. And a lady came up, and here I was. I had a little bit of drool, coming down, and I was like, oh, I need somebody to wipe that up for me. I was embarrassed talking to her with that. And I remember she patted me on my leg and she said, well, at least you're skinny. You've lost some weight. Now, I had done I've got to lose 10 pounds. My whole life. And in that moment, it changed for me because my family had lost so much from my health crash. And it became truly about creating health, not about getting skinny. And so that was a huge mindset shift for me. And so it ended up being titanium that they had put in the little screws to hold the bladder up in my body. And about 8% of the population has a reaction to titanium. And that's what happened to me, even though at the time they thought titanium was inert. So we got that titanium out. The seizures stopped, which was amazing, but I was still a wreck. And I went into bone fatigue. And I don't even have words to tell you it was just horrific, to the point that driving a car and lifting my arms was just not even an option. My bones just hurt. And so I went into the doctor and, said, help, I need help. This is horrific. And ended up, after testing and all of that, he put me on Fosamax. I was already in osteoporosis as a 29-year-old.
Mm.
And so I was raised in a very Western medical home. My stepdad is a doctor, very Western medicine, and you did what the doctor said. So he gave me the Fosamax, I took it, and it was awful. I would stand up and my nose would bleed, and I would bleed. My husband says shoes motivated me to really take my health back, because I was like, those are brand new shoes that I love.
Oh.
There's blood all over them. This is not acceptable. And so I went back to the doctor, and I remember, not in a rude way, but tossing him that Fosamax and saying, I will not take that. That is horrible. The side effects were so immediate for me from the Fosamax, but I still had the bone problem. And so that's where I really made a shift personally in my thinking and my belief, in that I stopped going to the doctor and putting all of my symptoms on him or her and expecting them to make me better with a pill. And I realized I needed to take more responsibility in how I was eating, how I was sleeping, the type of exercise I was doing, what I was drinking. I had a Diet Coke addiction. And it was that actual Fosamax that really helped to shift. And my bone scan that they did then, they actually wheeled me out of the hospital because I was at such a high risk for a hip fracture, like a little old lady. And my bone density now is stronger than it was then. And I do not have osteoporosis. I was able to rebuild my bones. And so many times when someone gets that diagnosis, they think it's the end. They can't change it. But our bones can become stronger, and we can change it. We can take our power back, and we can turn that around. And magnesium for me was a huge part of it. Not the only part, but a huge part of it.
Wow. And I love your philosophy, because that's what I believe. And that's what I see. I've been working with people with osteoporosis for over 25 years. And that's the first thing, even in the happiness work I do, is taking responsibility, not being a victim. Oh, poor me.
Right.
Switching that to what can I do? And that's exactly what you did, and become a victor in your life. And so I love hearing that. And in terms of the bones, I see this all the time. So let's delve into the magnesium.
So,
Because, yeah, why don't you say how it helped you? Why don't you start with how the magnesium helped you, and how you got the next part of the story, how you got into,
so magnesium, so my mom grew up hearing calcium, 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 calcium for bones. And we know now that just taking oral synthetic isolated calcium does not build strong bones, because we have the weakest bones of any group of people that have ever walked on planet Earth. So I knew that calcium wasn't a good fit. And calcium actually made my bone fatigue worse. And so that's when I had a really wise, that now she would be called a functional medicine doctor. She was a doctor who thought out of the box. And she said, Kristen, your stress levels with all of that situation that happened, we lost our home. We went through such financial crisis along with that health crash. She said, your magnesium levels are tanked. We have to get your magnesium levels up so your body can access the calcium, because calcium does play a role in bones, but it's not the only role. And what happened though, is I had such digestion issues that when I took oral magnesium, it made my digestion worse. And so she taught me how to soak in magnesium and take it up through my skin, because we know the skin's the largest organ, and absorb it through my skin, bypass digestion, and not have to take orally. And taking it through your skin, you can get to cell saturation. And that's when magnesium really starts to kick in and make a massive difference. When we take it orally, we notice small little changes. When we soak in it and we move our red blood cell number, meaning that every red blood cell is surrounded by magnesium as it should be, all of those processes that magnesium jumpstarts start to kick in. And so that's why my focus has been teaching women how to rebuild their bones. And one of those steps is magnesium and soaking in it, and then understanding their red blood cell and their own individual burn rate.
Okay, so we're going to go into a lot of this because you have so many points here. But before we even get that, yes, it's critical. And I so agree with you because that's what I see. I see when people come to see me, they are taking, the doctor puts them on calcium and vitamin D. And they do look at their vitamin D level, but that is it. And so they're taking too much calcium. I see that all the time because they're having them take, 1,200 milligrams in 2 pills, and they're getting it in their food. And then the vitamin D, they usually look at the blood work and then they calculate, but that's it. And so rarely, unless it's a functional medicine doctor, rarely are people also making sure they're on magnesium and vitamin K2. But let's go into the magnesium because everybody, that's why I love having you. And that's why I love doing the podcast, because I learn too. And everybody has their area that they research. And so I'm so open to learning more in better ways, because I have used soaks and I have used creams and, and transdermal magnesium, usually when people have digestion issues, which is a problem. A lot of people I see have digestion issues.
Right.
But after reading some of your information and talking to you, I see that it's beneficial for everyone. So why don't you tell us about really, and explain why it's not a matter of how many milligrams you take, why it's this, why don't you tell about why it's the saturation, why exactly what that means, and start with that.
Okay, so I have this beautiful woman that I met today who's actually sitting in front of me that I'm looking at right now, that is the beautiful example for me to share with your listeners. So listeners, I want to share with you, listen up. Before the podcast, you schedule the podcast and you make sure that, you're on the same page and it's a podcast that's a good fit. And I have a new team member that's helping me schedule podcasts, and there was some miscommunication that happened. And it would have been completely an absolute normal reaction for some frustration to come across from our podcast host that you are listening to right now. She could have been frustrated. And do you want to know what her response was? Flexibility. And she literally said, "Oh, we can make this work. We'll just do this." There was not an ounce of stress. And because she literally takes the happiness that she teaches to other women and men too, to other people, it held on to her magnesium. We control our magnesium burn rate. I am sitting here living with someone who does that naturally. I didn't do that naturally. I've had to learn to have that type of response. And you literally had the most beautiful, it did not faze you, it did not frustrate you. You said, "Oh, there won't be a single problem. We can just roll with it this way." Instead of, "Oh my gosh, we talked about doing this and it should have been at this time." Because when that cortisol goes up, our magnesium goes out through our urine. And so we control our attitude, our happiness factor controls our magnesium burn rate. And when we take that responsibility back into our life and recognize, I have choices that I can be making every single day in how fast I burn through magnesium, that's when you feel more empowered, and that's when you start to make a difference in how your body works. And you literally lit up lit up the screen when you talked about that. Some people could have gotten very frustrated with that. And so that's why I kind of throw out the window when they say, you need this much magnesium, because your burn rate and my burn rate are very different. My burn rate 10 years ago was horrible. Everything stressed me out. Now I've learned how to tap into that happiness that you teach people. And so my burn rate is much lower. Your food choices determine your burn rate. Your sleeping determines your burn rate. So many different things determine your burn rate, and understanding that is empowering. And understanding I have a role that I can play here. You don't have to be dependent on a functional medicine doctor or a Western, it's up to you to hold that magnesium in, keep those cortisol levels low. And the beautiful thing is, as you start soaking, we have thousands of women that will come back and they'll say, Kristen, my reaction is it's easier not to be stressed because magnesium's the chill pill mineral. It helps your body to relax. And so I love watching women really become more of who they're meant to be as they get their magnesium levels up, because they walk away from that shell of a person that they've become and trying to do so many things, and they really step into the full essence of who they are.
That, first of all, thank you for the compliment.
It was like, oh, she lives this. And I've been on podcasts before that the guest before, and then you get on the podcast, and it's a little bit different person than what you talked with before. And the beautiful thing about interacting with you today is what I got before was the very same person of what I got on the podcast. And I love that authenticity.
Kristen, that's so very kind of you to say. A couple things. First of all, I felt the same way with you. You just have such a nice presence, and I felt your positive, wonderful vibes the minute you came on. So it was just, I'm a big energy person, and it just feels so good. I'm just so enjoying being with you.
The authenticity is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing, your authenticity. And what you did before the podcast and on the podcast was the same thing. And when we're authentic to who we are, we keep and hold on to our magnesium.
A couple things that I work at this. It's not as though this is just, I've been for years. I was always happy. Happy was not an issue, but I was running around like a maniac, shoving food in at lunch. As a physical therapist, you're so busy. And it wasn't until I got I've told this story before, so people probably heard this, but it wasn't until I got a speeding ticket on the way to meditation that knocked me in my head that I wasn't being, the true story, I wasn't being authentic to what I was teaching people. So at that moment, I said, you know what? I took that meditation program. It was 8 weeks, so seriously. And I've made that a huge part of my life. And that keeps me low key. My cup isn't filled up. So then when something happens, you just roll with it. And I think that, and I love what you said though, about that will reduce your magnesium burn rate. It's going to reduce your cortisol, which affects that's your stress hormone, every aspect of your health. And with the bones, the cortisol reduces the bone building cells. I mean, they've done studies with the relationship with cortisol and bone density. So I think I love you come from the same place I do, where that's your foundation. You need to get all this in check. It's equally, because people will come to see me, what should I eat? What exercises should I do for my bones? Not realizing that this stress and all these other things are your baseline, are so, so important. So thank you for bringing that up. And it's just so interesting how you put it with the magnesium burn rate. I love that. And so let's continue on. I guess we need to know how people, because there is a test that people can, so tell us about the testing that you found that's most effective.
So there are two tests. There is a serum test, and it will tell you your magnesium is so crucial to life that your blood serum, it will pull from everywhere to keep your blood serum at 1%. And so it will pull from your bones, it will pull from your pancreas, it will pull from every part of your body to keep that blood serum at 1%. So there is that test, but it doesn't really show the whole picture. Like, for example, you've shown the whole picture of who you are. Before the podcast, during the podcast, that whole picture is there. And that blood serum is only showing a little part of that. It's like maybe doing an Instagram shot and cropping out the messy part of your house and just showing the beautiful staged part of your house. And so we want that whole picture of what's happening in your body. We want magnesium around every single cell in your body. And the test that shows that is called the magnesium red blood cell test. Now, we want it between 6.3 and 7. I've been doing this for almost 20 years, talking magnesium and soaking and building bones and waking up in the morning just having enough energy to follow through on all the ideas and dreams that you have. And it used to be that they said 6.3 to 7 was optimal magnesium levels. And numerous years ago, they dropped it because nobody was meeting the standard.
Wow.
I don't want to drop my standard for my body just because nobody else around me is as healthy as we could be. I want to wake up with optimal health. I want to wake up and love on those grandbabies and climb trees with them and walk down the beach with them and build sandcastles all day with them. That's what motivates me. And I think it's crucial that we know what motivates us to create health. And so even though they say that 5 is the standard now, that's not the standard for me. I still want that 6.3 and 7 because when there's magnesium around all of those red blood cells, we know that pancreas works better. We know that bones go from brittle to resonant and holding those nutrients and literally resonating health. We know hormones kick into gear when you've got enough magnesium. Magnesium jumpstarts so many processes in your body, and that's why we need to, when we go from oral to soaking in magnesium, we get benefits from oral, but we're not getting the full benefits that we could be, because to take the magnesium to get to cell saturation orally, you would have massive digestion issues. No one can take that much magnesium without digestion issues. And so that's why I love soaking in it, because we can bypass digestion, we soak in that magnesium, our body uptakes it, utilizes it, blood sugars get better, become more balanced, your ability not to react to situations, but to have that moment to make that conscious choice and take that breath and choose the better way in your thoughts and how you react to people. And so getting to cell saturation is my goal with magnesium, not just little parts of the magnesium. I want the whole picture for my body.
So interesting, because you can, so someone can have their blood work and the doctor's like, fine, and they don't even check low, but yet they're not really at cell saturation. So I think that's a fascinating point. And there are some ways, though, to know if you're deficient in magnesium. I mean, there are some telltale signs. So why don't you tell everyone, because I see magnesium deficiency a lot. I mean, it's very, very common.
So, and that's where the individuality really kicks in. For my mom, who's 84, she's a beautiful 84, vibrant woman that loves to travel and live life and text all of her great grandkids. And it shows up for her as leg cramps. And she knows when those leg cramps start to kick in, she'll say, honey, every single time that kicks in, I haven't soaked for a couple weeks.
Wow.
And I get back in a soak. Now, I don't get leg cramps. For me, it's my energy in the morning. I love waking up and being ready to start my day. I have not always been able to do that. Arthritis held me back from that. Autoimmune, my whole health crash. I do not take that for granted. So for me, if I'm not waking up with energy, literally bounding and ready to start my day, I know that my magnesium is starting to get lower. For my husband, it's tightness in his shoulders. That's his indicator. And so that's the other thing I love about watching women really understand and learn that communication with their body as they understand their magnesium burn rate. They start picking up on nuances and signs that they maybe didn't notice before. And anytime we have a stronger mind-body connection, I think health improves everywhere.
Ah, I totally agree. And a lot of people I see will, like, in the middle of the night get like a spasm and a cramp. And I think it can happen from dehydration as well as the magnesium, but then the magnesium seems to make such a huge difference.
Well, and the beautiful thing is magnesium helps you hold hydration in your cells. And so a lot of times that dehydration and low magnesium work together. And then some people will get low potassium on top of that. And it's an extremely painful experience to wake up in the middle of the night startled from that. So,
Wow. Before we go into exactly how to do the soaks, I think that's
okay.
really important. I really want people to walk away with things they can do. And again, since I'm learning, what I've always told people is just, you can also soak in Epsom salt, which is so relaxing and feels
Oh,
great. But
aren't they?
after reading your work, I realized that there's a better way. Can you tell us why Epsom salt may not that it's bad, but why,
No, no, we
why
love,
we can do
love,
better?
love Epsom salts. And we all know how relaxing they are. And I tend to put a beautiful candle. I love that whole ritual and routine of pampering. There's not enough magnesium in them to get you to cell saturation. And again, my focus, I'm a bulldog on it, is I want cell saturation. I want that for me. I want that for my family. I want that for my grandbabies. I want them to be at cell saturation. And so Epsom salts are great. And we know the relaxation that we experience. I want more, I want optimal, and I want cell saturation. And so is what I do is when I put the magnesium chloride in the tub is I'll throw some Epsom salts in there because magnesium chloride does not have the sulfates, and sulfates are beautiful for your liver. And so in combination, they work really beautifully together. And we want to make sure when we're putting that magnesium in that it's not manufactured in a lab, because lab manufactured magnesium chloride doesn't move your red blood cell numbers. We did a test on 100 people and their numbers didn't move even though they were soaking every single day. And we don't want it to be watered down. We want that good saturation that comes from a sea brine magnesium. And we don't want it to be from Russia or from Utah because both of those are very high in heavy metals. We want it to be from a clean source. Currently, right now, at the time of this production, the Zextine C is the cleanest source. And so when we pour that quarter cup of magnesium in that bath, we want to make sure we're there for 20 to 45 minutes. And we found after doing thermal imaging testing that after 20 minutes, you'd utilize about 80% of the magnesium that you'd put in. And in 45 minutes, you'd utilize about 98%. So we tell people 20 minutes minimum, and at 45 minutes, the magnesium uptake is pretty much accomplished. Now, my very first concern though was, how am I going to get the guys at my house to get in the bathtub? Because none of my guys are soakers. Now I have a son-in-law who loves to soak, but the men in my home, I was like, that is going to be really tough. And so we, again, did some thermal imaging and some red blood cell testing on a large group of people and found that it didn't matter if you soaked in the bathtub or soaked in just a pan of water, the uptake was the same. So even if you're not a bath person, you can just get a bowl, put some water and magnesium in it and soak. Many times when I'm working at the computer, I'm multitasking and I'm soaking in magnesium at the same time.
Well, that's what I'm going to try because I'm starting on this as soon as I get my magnesium. That as soon as I get your magnesium, that I should be getting today actually. So I'm going to. And I was going to invite people because I
Yay.
want to try this and I want to see because I mean, I'm game to absolutely switch what I'm doing in terms of, after reading the information and hearing about the transdermal, how incredible these soaks are, and just, I'm quite excited about this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start the 30 days and then I'm going to report. But if anybody wants to join me on this, what you can do is I'll have my Facebook page, and you can just post under that and let me know how it's doing, or you can even email me or write, put it on the podcast. But then I'll probably wait 40 days so people, if they want to try this, can get their magnesium, and then 40, I'll put another post and everybody,
Oh, that will be great.
right?
It's a magnesium party.
Right. And yeah, and then you also, well, let's just talk about this now, because we'll keep going. But you were being so kind to offer some really wonderful discounts to this community.
So my love language is gifts. I love to give gifts. And so here is what we'd like to do for your community. In that, we will give you 4 jugs of magnesium to give away. And we'll let you determine and set that up. And we're so excited to see who wins that magnesium. And we will ship it to them from our warehouse. And then when they go to our website, Living the Good Life Naturally, and they purchase a jug of magnesium, and they have to use your coupon code, which is Happy Bones. Happy Bones. And they put that in the little coupon code box. I will add a jar of our muscle cream that is loaded with magnesium. But not only that, it supports our Uganda project, which educates beautiful little girls in Uganda. Oh. And so we will add one of those for free. And the magnesium muscle cream is one of our, I think, our second or third top selling product. It's got a beautiful permaculture olive oil. It's got some menthol. It's got the beautiful magnesium. It is so beautiful to use pre and post workout right on those muscles. We've got a couple of gyms that use it, and the physical trainers in the gym, they just swear by what it does for muscle recovery, because we know muscle recovery and magnesium go hand in hand. So let's just put it right on the muscle and get that process started.
And what about just back pain, knee pain? Is it?
Absolutely. I keep it right by my computer, and I love to put it on my shoulders. It is mentholated, so we don't want to put it on the face because it does have that mentholation in it. But right on my shoulders and my lower back, sometimes I get a little achy. And so I love to put it back there also. Now, here's the thing though. That muscle cream, as beautiful as it is, it will topically help somewhere, but it doesn't get you to cell saturation. That's what the jug is for. So the muscle cream has its place. I've got mine in my gym bag. I use it before I work out and after I work out, but it's not going to move your numbers like the jug and soaking for that 30-day challenge.
Okay, so a couple other questions. So I'm assuming then flakes that they sell are going to be similar to the Epsom salts. Is that right?
Okay, so there's a couple issues with the flakes for me personally. And that is, I want optimal health. I want to be the healthiest that I can be, to love on the people around me that I love on in the biggest kind of way possible. And the magnesium flakes are processed with a chemical. And there's chemical residue left over in those flakes. It doesn't matter where you get them from, the processing is the same. So that's one problem I have with the flakes. And I don't want that extra chemical load on my body in a warm bathtub when my body's absorbing everything and the pores are open. The second problem is, to use enough flakes, it's very hard to get to the point that the oil is, and you end up using more, costing more because of the amount of flakes that you have to use to make the concentration of the oil. So two issues there that I have with the flakes. My company does not sell the flakes, and we won't until there's a different processing.
That makes sense. So the same thing then with the muscle cream, what about the spray and the lotion that you have?
So the spray that we carry is not diluted. And because magnesium, they don't have to tell you when they add water to it because water is already a part of it. And so we put it in that spray bottle. It comes just like the jug does. The downside of that is sometimes the sprayer will get clogged because it'll get little crystals that form. So we tell people just run it under hot water. We want you getting that full concentration of spray. And the spray is great and will give you more of a magnesium boost than the muscle cream, but still not enough to move you to cell saturation. So if you're someone who wakes up in the middle of the night, I would put the spray on that cramp because that's what's going to help relieve that cramp the easiest. But
How
it's
long does
not.
that take? Yeah. How long will that take to, because I've been in that situation, not me personally. My husband, he's an OBGYN and delivers babies, and now with the masks,
Yeah.
He's not drinking. So between that and maybe not taking his magnesium or whatever it is,
Right.
he'll get the cramp. And so how long does it take?
Seconds.
Oh, perfect.
It starts to magnesium's the chill pill mineral, and it relaxes that muscle in seconds.
Oh, that's fantastic. Great. Okay, so I think you explained all of that. And so back to the when you're in the soak, so you're sitting in
Yes.
the soak. The 20 minutes sounds good to me, even though I guess I can't see doing it with my meditation, but I think the 20 minutes is doable for me. So I'm into the 20 minutes. Perfect.
Awesome.
How much does it say on the jug? How much you have?
It does 1/4 of a cup for adults and 1/8 of a cup for children. Now, my baby girl is 6'2". And so she will always be my baby girl, but obviously she is an adult. So I consider anything over taller than my waist, I would consider an adult size human being, even though they might be the age of, they might be 11. Right. But if you've got a tall 11-year-old, we want to treat that 11-year-old like they're an adult when it comes to their magnesium. And so we do 1/4 of a cup for them. A child, we do 1/8 of a cup. And a newborn baby, the acid mantle on their skin is so precious and soft. We don't soak them in magnesium. And that's when my grandbabies started being born about 8 years ago. That's when I created the magnesium lotion, because I could tell that they were being born magnesium deficient, and I wanted the magnesium on them, but knew it wasn't appropriate to use that strong of a product. And so the magnesium lotion is a really soft, gentle way for new babies.
That's wonderful. And then especially because magnesium helps so much with sleep and relaxation. So many kids can use a little, everybody can use better sleep and relaxation. So it's good for everybody, and everybody does need it. But think about how amazing it is for kids, and that it's easy. You can just rub the cream on if they're not going to soak. But
during that 30-day challenge, one of the things that people will say is, "Oh, I missed a day. I have to start over." And that's where we're going to take your happiness factor that you brought into this podcast in your life so beautifully, that I got to see on this podcast, in flexibility. We know you're not going to soak every day for 30 days. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for about 70%, 70% of that 30 days that you're soaking. And then within 5 days is optimal to have your blood work tested 5 days after you've finished that 30-day challenge.
Oh, great. That's wonderful. That's amazing that you can boost your levels so quickly. That's, certain things you can't, but it's really nice.
Yeah, magnesium, it's a very immediate feedback. And most people, not everyone, depending on where your magnesium levels are, most people will experience that relaxation the very first time they soak. Now, some people don't. And they tend to be the people who are more deficient, and they just don't feel it. And it takes a couple of soaks to get to the point where they're feeling that relaxation. But most people, that very first time, you see their shoulders kind of drop, and you see them start to sink back into the chair. And it's like, oh, the beauties of magnesium are starting.
I am so excited. I'm going to have But right now, my daughter, her fiance, people are living here because of, COVID. They live normally
Right.
in a one bedroom in the city, in New York City, but they have to work remotely. So my house is much bigger. So we have a whole crew. I'm going to have everybody soaked.
Oh, fabulous. You're going to have the happiness house with the chill pill mineral.
So I have a question, because I'm thinking in my head how I'm going to do this nice challenge, since you're offering 4, you said?
I will give away 4.
Okay, so what I'm thinking is, how long does it take to mail? How long does it take when someone orders it?
It depends. So usually it will leave our warehouse within 1 to 2 business days. Usually 1, sometimes 2
Okay.
business days. It will leave our warehouse, and our warehouse is in Utah. And so, for example, Florida, it usually takes 3 to 5 business days. If you're in the Rocky Mountain area, sometimes it's there the next day. So up to 5
Oh,
business
okay.
days, depending on where you're at in the United States.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking, that I'm going to post this interview as soon as this interview, actually, while you hear it, it's already going to be on Facebook.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
soon, when this interview comes out, it will be on Facebook. And so if anyone, and I'll have the Facebook link. So anyone that's going to post on Facebook that they're doing the challenge, and just anything that they have to say, I'll put them in a raffle. So anyone,
Oh, I love that.
right, who's going
So
to,
they take a little action, maybe share what they learned on the
yeah,
podcast.
yeah, that's a great idea. Just say something, and then I'll take those, and then I'll draw 4 people.
Awesome. And then we'll ship 4 people a jug of that
Right.
magnesium.
Right.
Beautiful. I love
Okay.
that.
How does that sound?
I
Okay.
love it.
I'll write
And
that.
we will make sure to infuse the box with as much happiness as we can.
I love it. I'm loving it. This is just, we could talk for so long because there's so much, but I think, is there anything we missed? Did we get the basics in here?
I think we got the basics, the 30-day challenge. We talked about Epsom salts and why we need more than that. We talked about how orally magnesium does make a difference, but if you want optimal health and really that deeper level of healing for your bones, we want to get the cell saturation through soaking. I think we covered a lot of bases.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about this because, as I said, I always am open to learning new things and improving on what I do. So if indeed the magnesium soaks, as it seems, are going to improve, great. So this has been just amazing for me, and I think the whole community. So I just can't thank you enough. And I'm so excited about these soaks because it's easy to do. I'm big.
Yes.
Nothing can be stressful. You can't, if I told people they have to sit with their feet in there an hour and that was a must, that would be tough. But 20 minutes,
20 minutes.
70% of the time, this is doable. So I can't wait to hear how this community does. And I just thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me on. And thank you for reminding me that there are people out there that are authentic. As the business grows and more people come into my space, I'm realizing how much I love authenticity. And it was delightful seeing that full blown in you. And just seeing you walk the walk of what you talk about, of that happiness, because you could have been a little frustrated with the miscommunication that happened, and you just had that big, beautiful smile, your eyes lit up and said, oh, we'll roll with it. I love that. And I love the reminder that you are to all of us, how crucial it is to be authentic to what we're saying and what we're teaching, and that kindness matters. It matters to the people that we interact with, and it matters individually to us because it helps determine that burn rate. And I loved seeing it come across and recognizing that you have worked it, going from a ticket before meditation to what you are now. But that's inspiring to me because that means I can continue to grow on my journey also. So thank you for being you and for having me on today.
Oh my
I've
gosh,
loved it.
that's so
I've loved
touching.
it.
Thank you. One other thing I didn't mention. Thank you for creating. I'm so into when things are healthy and when things are safe, and that we don't have to worry to do all the research, to research it and do everything you did to make sure the sources are good and this is safe and it doesn't have heavy metals. And
Oh,
that's something that's so important to me. So thank you for having this company that has gone out of their way to make sure to deliver a safe product. I think that is so very, very important. And we don't know. You always don't know. Not, a lot of people don't test, or it's watered down. So I think
well,
that's so wonderful. And I think that's something that just can benefit everybody, to rest assured you don't have to worry. I think that's so huge.
it is our passion, and with the new laws that have changed with that the FDA has passed because of COVID, manufacturers are not having to test because supply chains are becoming an issue. And it's something that I have been personally passionate about because I had so many health issues and because my body reacted to so many things. And that gratitude that you just sent my way, I want to flow that to my family because they're the ones. I have a daughter that's our warehouse manager, and she's the one that makes sure that those lids get put on tight and sent out correctly. And it's my family helping me in that we have been able to keep that product at the highest quality available, not watered down. And we've been able to pull it through our little family business and get to the point of the warehouse that we're at now because of them. So I'm going to take that gratitude you just sent me, and I'm going to flow it to my family,
Well,
because
let's take, yeah.
we wouldn't be here without, I wouldn't be able to have the product that I have and the quality that I have without my family standing there doing some of that hard manual labor of filling magnesium. So,
Oh, that's so beautiful. Well, let's take the gratitude. And I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for the listeners. And let's just multiply it. So
oh,
everybody, after this podcast, think of a few things you're grateful for, and then just send out that gratitude. Because
I
right
love
now,
it.
the world, well, we always can use gratitude, but
Yeah.
spreading the gratitude is just so important. So thank you. This has been
Oh,
so much
thank
fun.
you.
And
Thank
I
you.
cannot wait. I'm so psyched to get my magnesium.
I have too. I'm excited for your people, for whoever wins.
Yes, and yes, and we'll keep in touch. I will
Okay,
report to you and let you know.
great. Okay, great. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks so much. It's been a
Bye
pleasure.
bye.
I hope you've enjoyed today's interview with Kristen as much as I have, and now have a good understanding of what transdermal magnesium is and how you can use these soaks to improve your bones and overall health. If you're interested in learning more about her products, you can go to livingthegoodlifenaturally.com. And if you put in the code Happy Bones, you'll receive a 10% discount on anything you purchase. And for the next 2 weeks, Kristen is giving us a special added bonus of her muscle cream with any purchase. So that would be until August 12th. And all these links will be in the show notes. Also, if you want to join me on my 30-day magnesium challenge, please do. I'd love that. And lastly, Kristen's giving away 4 of her magnesium jugs. So what you need to do is just go to my Facebook page, which is Margie Bissinger, MSPTCHC, but I'll have the link in the show notes, and just write something you liked about or that you learned from today's episode. And then that will put you in the drawing, and I'll draw 4 names by next week, which is August 5th. I'll draw 4 names and let you know if you won this special gift. So bye for now, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.